All right, y'all, welcome back. Episode 30 of Harrison Talks Pod. I'm recording this on a Monday evening in Thailand and a Monday morning back in America, hours before the NBA draft lottery, and hours, or rather 12 hours or so before the next games where we have the Warriors, Timberwolves, and before that we have the Knicks and the Celtics. No surprises, in a sense that there are no teams eliminated just yet, no sweeps in the second round, and it seems like no surprise either that these playoffs just seem to get better and better and better. Of course, we have our complaints. Of course, there's the officiating. Of course, there are some injuries that we'll talk about today and some rather serious injuries in the league that affect almost every playoffs that we see. So, a lot of expected, a lot of unexpected, but let's go in order. I want to talk a lot about the two games from last night, that being the Nuggets and Thunder, where the Thunder won 92 to 87, and then the Pacers and Cavaliers, where the Pacers won 129 to 109. Then we'll do the other two playoff series, more lightning rounds since they play tonight. And since it's going to be also very soon before, is it right before the games? I don't even know the schedule anymore. I think it's right before the games, the draft lottery. I'll give you some predictions there and what I think would be the most fun. But since this episode will come out just hours before that, let's focus on the games that happened last night. And hey guys, if you've been following me, if you know me at all, you know that I am so very excited about the Indiana Pacers. As I mentioned, the Pacers won 129 to 109, and there were lots of surprises about this game. And just throughout, after the first quarter, it felt like this game could be uh, on the way to over by halftime, where the Pacers were leading 80 to 38. It felt like the game could have ended right there, and perhaps the Cavaliers were just looking ahead to game five. But also, Donovan Mitchell will not be playing. It seems like he's not going to be playing. Not too sure about that, but it sure seems like he's not going to be uh, out out there, or at least completely healthy. Darius Garland gets props for being on the floor, I think. Just not the most healthy Cleveland Cavaliers squad, and it's making, I think, myself and a lot of people second guess what this whole regular season meant. Talking so much about the Cavaliers and how good they've looked on both ends of the floor, just to have it kind of come down to this with some very glaring issues that most likely go beyond just having a completely healthy Cleveland Cavaliers team. But first, let's talk about 80 points in the first half by the Pacers. Second quarter ended on a 20-4 run. Had 25 assists in the first half. Just overall, very entertaining game to watch. If you're a Cleveland fan, I don't know how you really feel about this. I don't know if you're more just upset by the amount of breakdowns that your team had. I think it's very entertaining basketball to watch. Clearly, they're being coached the right way. I don't know if it's the right way for this team, at least. And it looks like a team where no matter what rotation they have on the floor, they enjoy playing together. Lots of great plays by TJ McConnell tonight. Lots of highlight plays by Obi Toppin. Halliburton has just been a floor facilitator for them and makes at least a couple of highlight plays per game. So it's a very fun team to watch. I don't know if you gave the people around the commission truth serum and asked them what their ideal finals matchup would be, if it would include Indiana or if they would even have an opinion at all at this point. But it certainly is interesting. Uh, this Pacers team, again, plays very well together, but if their best player is Halliburton, that's most likely not a top 10 player in the league. No offense to him, because he's a player that I love watching. I'm a huge fan of. And next to him, Pascal Siakam, what did he have? 21 points, 21 minutes, 9 of 10 from the field. Had another great game from him. Is it the first time in my lifetime where we could potentially have a finals team made it to conference finals and then made it past there, where we would not have a top 10 player on that finals team? It could be 2014 San Antonio Spurs, debatable with young Kawhi and older Tim Duncan. It could be 2004 Detroit Pistons, also debatable. That's probably the case, but if so, we've never, I think, fully seen a team with this sort of makeup before that is this young. Um, Perhaps play style might be similar to a Spurs team, but ask an X's and O's guy about that. Don't ask me, I guess. At one point, Indiana led 20-2 in assists. Just amazing contrast between the two teams, and Cleveland just looked shell shocked. On TV, it looked like a very exciting game to be at. Pacers fans there seemed like they understood the impact of this game, either getting tied with Cleveland, with game seven being away, or potentially going up 3-1, putting them in a great spot against this Cavaliers team. And I kind of think that it is over. I kind of think it's over with this series, and can't really believe it. Donovan Mitchell, 3 for 11 shooting, was the team's worst, minus 35 plus minus, and seems to have an ankle injury. And there's been a lot of speculation of the severity of it. Did it happen in game? Did it happen during the halftime or whenever it might be? Is he faking an injury? But I never really buy into that too much because in the playoffs, we so often hide injuries. Not we. Let's say we, that'd be fun. The teams hide injuries for obvious reasons. So I don't think about it in that way too much. But he might be out, most likely will be out. And I think this series is over. And what does this mean for Cleveland heading into next season? And what does it mean for the league overall? Because Cleveland, who had a historical season, could come back and have the greatest regular season of all time with the same exact team. I think we'd have the same exact discussion heading into the first round of the 2026 playoffs. So, regular season matters, guys. It really does. Why does it matter? I don't know, but I want to believe that it matters. Is that good enough? I hope that it's the amount of offense, isn't it? It just has to be. And is the future not Donovan Mitchell, and is it not a combination of Mobley and Jared Allen? Although I think it's hard for me to even put in contrast because I mean, if this series is tied 2-2, I will be talking about this in a different way, depending on the hypotheticals with health and everything. Because, yeah, Mobley and Allen should coexist together. We're going to talk about a Thunder team that has a similar twin tower situation, similar, I guess, in the West. So Allen would obviously be a center on a competitive playoff team on pretty much any team out there, correct? So I don't think the issue is that, but if you decide to get off of Mitchell and or Garland, just where do you kind of head from here? And just what are they missing? Leave a comment and let me know what I am missing with this team because I feel like I am at a complete loss. This team in this game was outplayed, outclassed, most likely just outcoached overall. And this Pacers team really, I'm not trying to be a hometown Midwest guy. They look fantastic. Hey, Cleveland is in the Midwest also. Just very fun team to watch overall. So that's about it for that game, and most likely it for that series. And moving forward, uh, I would be happy with either. If they were to play Boston in the next round, that's great. If we get an exciting, I'll admit it, I'm probably more leaning towards the Indiana New York series just for the Halliburton New York, just for that whole matchup to be seen again. So I think there's quite a nice contrast between the two games that we got last night. Pacers and Cavaliers, which was not close, and Nuggets and Thunder, which was pretty close right up to the end. Thunder pulled ahead, now the series is tied. But also in comparison to the other game, if it went the other way and Nuggets were up 3-1 on the series, I think we're talking about it a little bit differently. We're not talking about blowing up the Thunder or anything like that. But it was certainly important for SGA to have a big game in this game, and they won 92-87. I'm not a betting guy. Bet the unders if you're just betting on these games in general. Just don't expect like big scoring games out of any of them. We get them. I mean, Pacers scored 129, but I have to imagine, anyways. Gambling is dumb. That's what I think. That's what I think. Kind of. I guess it's important. But this game, another thing too, is that I've I've been wrong more than I might have ever have in the playoffs as far as predictions go. So I guess it is good that I don't bet on anything. Something I've been wrong on, I think might be who's been the best team in the league, but perhaps it's fluctuated and perhaps I'm giving too much recency bias and I'm thinking about weighing the playoffs too much to the regular season. I've been saying that it's been Boston throughout the season, and it's the easy choice, I know, as they are the team to beat, winning the championship, but I really just have believed that their depth has been the best overall. But after last night's game with OKC, it might be OKC overall. I had doubts with their lack of experience, where they are with age and experience and all of that. But honestly, their defense overall and their depth has brought, I think, a lot of things that should not be surprising if you've been paying attention to the Thunder a little bit this season. For example, they played 10 players 7 minutes or more in this game last night, and they seem to be able to switch off of different rotations whenever they need to. I don't know how that affects their team chemistry at all, but it sure doesn't seem like it has affected their success overall. So, yeah, I think Thunder defense has been maybe the most entertaining and impressive of anything that we've seen in these playoffs so far. Denver shot just 36.8%, 23.5 from three. OKC ended with a 92.1 combined defensive rating, which I didn't look. Has to be one of the best in these playoffs so far. Lou Dort played only 19 minutes. Caruso and Wallace each ended with a plus 12, and I think each closed out the game. I forget now. But anyways, I'm pretty sure we'll see the same starting lineup with I guess, their version of the Twin Towers for the next game, but it sure seems like they can adjust if necessary at the end of games and make those decisions. And I just think they have enough to win it overall. But my other small prediction, I guess, for this series is that this series is going 7 games, I think. Because it was, again, 5 point game to end it, still close to going into the end of the fourth quarter. And Jokic played 39 minutes, looked tired, only 2 free throw attempts. So we can look at that either way if you're a Denver fan, positive or negative. I think this will not end in six. I think Denver is going to take at least one of these games. Well, I think I should say Denver and OKC will each take at least one game of the next 2 games. That's what I am meaning to say. But we talked last week the overall rest and age of the Thunder having a 9-day rest. I think helps them in the long run, and I thought it would help them more initially. But again, like the 2-man game of Jokic and Murray is still the best that we probably have in this series, and they have had other role players step up and other role players that have not stepped up as much. So it's been hit or miss on the Nuggets as well. I guess Michael Porter Jr. having a difficult series is expected. In the first 3 games was 4 for 25 from the field, 2 for 16 from three, and in game 4 was 1 for 7 with 3 points. An overall minus 15 net rating. Aaron Gordon, who is the most popular athlete in Denver, it seems like, overall is averaging 18.3 points per game, 10.3 rebounds, 57% from the field over these 4 games. Had a great game in game 4, 16 rebounds, 6 assists. Overall, Denver's depth has been more difficult for this team in this series. Only 6 Nuggets players played 15 minutes or more, including Westbrook, who was 0 for 4, 2 turnovers, or in 10 minutes, so not including Westbrook. Jokic was minus 17, Murray was minus 13, but I fully expect them to bounce back in game 5. And again, it was not a blowout game. Also, it's kind of interesting with their whole coaching situation still, isn't it? If the Nuggets show success, then that would incentivize teams to make more changes perhaps later on in the season. I'm kind of getting off topic, but what I'm trying to say is I think we all just need to hold on, and there's going to be a lot of surprising changes with, you know, Luca being traded and coaches being fired into the season that are in the playoffs, and just so many other things that will happen. Ownership changes for lots and lots of money, all of that. Thunder, super uh impressive win overall. Chet and Isaiah is Hartenstein, so fun to watch. Really fun to watch Hartenstein throwing up lobs to Chet Holmgren as a lob threat. Just very hard for a lot of teams to contain as well. as the Nuggets. But Jokic, overall, we talk about his greatness and everything. Has his defense gotten better overall in the last 3 years? Or do I not pay attention to his defense as much? Because it seems like he's still an underrated defender and certainly had some really nice defensive plays in this game as well. So, as mentioned, Thunder are deep. 10 players played 7 minutes or more. I think 9 of those players played 12 minutes or more. And I would expect them to have the slight edge going into these last 3 games. All right, a little bit shorter now, a little less things to say about these other 2 games that we will see tonight. So Timberwolves won game 3, 102-97. Steph Curry has not played, will be out until at least game 5, they're saying, but I don't know. Not too sure about that. Hamstring injuries, never too sure about it. So, not surprised if we see him, not surprised if we don't see him. And it's just one of those unfortunate situations. Almost in the worst case. The injury could be much, much worse, of course, but it's unfortunate to see this impact of a aging superstar player have this sort of opportunity with Jimmy Butler coming to the team, also looking for that opportunity. And it could very well just end like that. It is interesting, though, that they could have won this last game. And with the unknowns of Steph Curry and just the overall lineups that I can't believe the Warriors are putting out, the edge has to go to the Timberwolves, obviously. Younger, more depth. There's more active players overall, perhaps. Yeah, I can't believe that we're seeing like Trace Jackson Davis out there. It's like, oh yeah, like he's on the Warriors, and just um and like not seeing Quinn Post, but seeing him. Just very interesting lineups. Almost like it almost like makes me go back to the lineups that we were seeing in 2020 and like 2021. If you were like watching that era of the Warriors where there would be nights of like, no Draymond, of course, no Steph, no Clay, and just complete rebuild. And somewhere in there is 2022. It's going to be a very interesting documentary one day. However long the time span is, it might be a multiple part or decade long Warriors documentary, but it's going to be interesting though. There will be the punch episode. So, without Steph Curry, it looks very, very difficult as far as the types of lineups that the Warriors can put out. And it sure seems like they're experimenting on the fly of as far as lineups they can put out there on the floor. So, great game from Timberwolves overall. Great game from their star player, Anthony Edwards, 36 points, 46% from the field. Looked aggressive, looked confident. Julius Randle had a triple double, 24 points, 10 rebounds, 12 assists. Jaden McDaniels had a good game again, 15 points, 3 of 4 from deep, and had a 86% true shooting percentage. On the Warriors side, Jimmy Butler led with 33 points. Jonathan Kuminga, 30 points, 61% from the field, while Brandon Podziemski was 1 of 10 from the field. So going into this round, I wasn't really too sure how much playing time Kuminga would get, but expect him to play a lot more in these next couple of games because it's just a matter of whoever they can put on the floor at this time. But not too surprised by it. Just I wasn't so sure about Steve Kerr's confidence in Kuminga. But again, he doesn't really have much of a choice at this point. So, hey, great game from him. And again, this was a 5-point game that the Warriors could have won at the end, which I don't think would have changed our discussion too much, but would have made it slightly more interesting. Warriors shot 43% overall. So looking ahead tonight, game 4, can Minnesota take the 3-1 lead? And I think if they do, then it is pretty much over with this series. And then Minnesota is playing either the Thunder or the Nuggets and could potentially get extra rest, but who knows? I think having Minnesota in the conference finals makes it very interesting no matter what happens. And I must say that if we get Anthony Edwards in the NBA Finals overall, I think that could potentially be a big moment for him and be yeah, just good for matchups overall. Ratings, I'm not sure. Not so sure about that. But I mean, if we did get a Timberwolves Pacers NBA Finals, as weird as that might sound to it sounds weird to me for someone who actually watches basketball, but it would be fun to have that young matchup of two young superstars facing off. So definitely looking forward to it. At the same time, would not be surprised if Jimmy Butler had another great performance and Warriors take game 4. So the other series tonight is the New York Knicks and the Boston Celtics. Celtics won game 3, 115-93, meaning that no home team in this series has won a game yet. Game 4 tonight. And if Boston goes down 3-1, do we feel differently about this series? Or do we feel like the Celtics could win 3 games in a row? Are the Knicks going to be healthy? I just checked and there's no updates for Karl Anthony Towns. It seemed like he reacted a certain way about his hand, but that could be anything. And unknowns with injuries in the playoffs could be something or nothing. It's hard to tell, as we have said. Celtics looked great in this game, looked like they have life, looked like it's going to be a competitive series overall. So, yes, if they were to lose, don't know how Celtics fans would feel, but same time, could very easily be a tied series going back to Boston. 6 Celtics scored in double figures. Peyton Pritchard led bench scoring with 23 points. Jason Tatum had 22 points, 9 rebounds, 7 assists, shooting 40% from the field. Al Horford and Derek White combined for 32 points on 12 of 19 shooting. Celtics hit 23s overall at 50%. And Knicks scored just 93 points, shooting 28% from 3. Karl Anthony Towns had a difficult shooting night, shooting 5 of 18, but grabbed 15 boards. Jalen Brunson had 27 points and had 4 turnovers in this game. Celtics had 23 assists to just 12 turnovers and had a 64% true shooting percentage. As a team, if they keep it up, they're going to win game 4. But super excited to see this game tonight. Uh, Either way, not really too sure how to predict the conference finals for this one. Just happy that this series is not over just yet. So, my last fun segment today, I want to talk about the upcoming draft lottery tonight. So, I'll put this right at the very end. And if you've stuck around with me so far, Hey, thank you for doing that. Subscribe, yeah, hit that like button, everything. Do all the YouTube things if you're on there. And I am not a college basketball guy. Uh, I am not a draft guy whatsoever. I usually start paying attention just about now. But of course, I've paid attention to Cooper Flagg for a while now, and I understand the hype around him. Another Duke guy, of course. So I don't know what to title this segment. Uh, it's who deserves it the most, who I think would be the most fun or the most silly. That's about it. So, this is not the most prepared segment at all because, again, any predictions or opinions I share about this is simply me looking at the odds and looking at this one player in the draft. We're not doing anything beyond that. So, who should get Cooper Flag? Of course, there are three teams that have the highest odds, which are the Jazz, the Wizards, and the Hornets. And I think I can make good cases for why all of those teams would be good for Cooper Flag. Utah Jazz has usually had a very competitive system, has always had competitive role players, and is just so ready for a star player to go to that team. Washington Wizards perhaps have been the most patient and might be the worst of the three. So, in that sense, they might be the most deserving. And Charlotte Hornets next to LaMelo Ball, that could be super fun. So, chances for that as well are also nice. Now, if you ask Cooper Flagg how he feels about any of these, it would be amazing to hear what his real feelings about this would be. He would most likely say any of it would be good. I can help any team. But yeah, how do you feel about Utah, Washington, or Charlotte as teams or destination? So, out of these three, I think Wizards would be most deserving. I think Hornets would be most fun to watch. But let's keep going now. What would be another silly pick on here? The Houston Rockets. Phoenix Suns are ninth in these odds at 3.8%. And Suns first round pick, non-protected, not overall, goes to the Houston Rockets. So the potential of that happening on top of the type of season the Phoenix Suns had would just be pretty incredible. It would be funny, but also a bit sad at the same time, I have to say. Uh, if you're a Suns fan, not happy about that at all, and you have to be saying, "Are you kidding me right now?" At a less than 4% chance that also happened. But I'm going to talk about it the same way I talked about the potential of Wembanyama going to the Raptors when they had a 2% chance. Speaking of which, and perhaps this exact same seeding, the 11 in this is the Mavericks at 1.8%. Imagine if that happened. Now imagine they the memes that we would get. Everyone would be saying Nico Harrison already traded Cooper Flag. They didn't even get him. They traded the first round, the first pick overall, and, and they traded them to Lakers, something like that. So, of course, there's lots of potential funny parts there, but it never works out that way, right? I didn't look up who, well, the lottery odds change all the time, but what is the lowest odds to ever get a number one overall pick? Has it happened out of the top five or six? As I said, not a draft guy. And what else would be nice to see? Trailblazers at 3.7% would be great to see them. Great to see Cooper Flagg go to. Not a big chance. San Antonio Spurs are in it again at 6%. Wembanyama, Steph Castle, and then Cooper Flagg. That sort of potential would be pretty amazing to see. Philadelphia 76ers are most likely a top pick for perhaps not deserve it, but the most interesting storylines if they get it. They're at 10.5%. They are a top six protected. 7 through 14 goes to OKC. There is some potential sad and funny storylines that will happen in this draft lottery tomorrow. And it's just got to be madness being in that room. I understand why some people like going to it every year because it just has to be absolute madness. Nets 9%, I like it. Pelicans 12.5%. A lot of questions around that team and Zion Williamson. I like it. So let's see what happens overall. I'm gonna end it there. I'm done. No other input, but I am getting up early to watch the draft lottery because I am really excited to see it. And it just feels like another big, exciting moment. I remember working and paying attention to the Zion Williamson draft lottery when that happened. I remember being at home on my couch, waiting for the Wembanyama draft lottery. Was super surprised by that presentation of how they like went to break and then came back and like there was no like real build up to that number one pick. Anyways, I said I'm leaving. I am leaving. Have a great rest of your day. Like, subscribe, do all those things. Share this podcast with someone if you like it. And thank you so much. I hope you have a great week, and I'll see you next time.